This is the jpeg2RAW podcast. I'm Mike Howard. I'm broadcasting from the basement of Knob Studios here in sunny and hot Atlanta. jpeg2RAW is a photography podcast for the amateur photographer. You can find us on the web at www.knobstudios.com, and you can contact the show by emailing us at podcast@knobstudios.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Flickr, and Twitter by searching for jpeg2RAW, or just follow the links on our website. jpeg2RAW, show number 13. And tonight we have Tim Kemperle, co-host.
Good evening, everyone.
How you doing, Tim?
Very good. Very good. Still nice weather up here in New York.
Yeah, we're getting some rain today. I think a cold front's coming through. So today was 80, 83. Tomorrow is going to be in the 50s. So
yeah, we're in the upper 60s, and we're getting that rain tomorrow, and it's going to drop.
Yeah, hopefully I won't have any thunderstorms come through while we're doing the show. I'm kind of down here in the basement, and I wouldn't know unless a tornado come through.
Oh, you're in the right place for it then.
Yes. And tonight we have a special guest. We have Rachel Brenke.
Yes.
Okay. I said it right. Rachel, you coming to us from Texas?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Thank you for coming. I had been looking at some of Rachel's photos and came across an article she wrote, which we'll go over in a little bit, about RAW, and I said, oh my gosh, I've got to have this person on. And then I talked with Rachel earlier this week. And so if it's not enough that she is pregnant for your third child, right, Rachel?
Right.
so two other children. She's pregnant for a third. Her husband's in the military, and I imagine occasionally he is deployed, right?
Quite often.
Okay, so sometimes you're a single mom. You have an MBA.
Mm-hmm.
You are obviously running a photo business.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently that wasn't enough to keep her busy, Tim.
Yeah, apparently not.
She's also going to law school.
Oh, man.
Gosh, I read all that and wondered, what am I doing? My kids are
running a podcast.
Yeah. My kids are grown and don't want to have anything to do with me anymore. They're not grown, they're teenagers. Don't want to have anything to do with me anymore. So I got plenty of free time from them. So Rachel, how do you keep all that going?
Time management. And actually, because of all that is why I started photography. Law school was the reason. Law school kind of forces your mindset completely different than the normal person. And so I felt kind of like the life was being sucked out of me. And photography was kind of the creative part that helped me a little bit more balanced. Of course, most of my friends would probably say I'm imbalanced, but maybe that's why I'm crazy enough to do all this.
Yeah. All right. Well, something I wanted to say last week that I actually didn't think about it till after Morgan got off the podcast is, your husband's in the military, mm-hmm. and I want to just say a big thank you to your husband and to you as your family, because it's a sacrifice both on the person serving and the person serving's family. So big thank you to you and to Morgan and to all the people in the armed services, because mm-hmm. it's because of what they do that we can do what we do.
Absolutely. I echo Mike's comments.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we get into Morgan stuff, I want to go over a little bit of news. And, last week, I don't think I have that pulled up, but last week I mentioned something about that de-blur thing that Adobe's doing. Let me get the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hold on a second.
You don't sound too enthusiastic about that.
I think there's a balance between using a crutch of programs in order to create a photograph. We've all heard it, make the best photographing camera, and I harp on that. And obviously I use Photoshop and so forth to enhance my photos. I don't know. I haven't given it a go around. I've only read reviews and what other professionals have said, so I'm not sold on it yet.
I agree with you. I'm not sold on it either, and I believe in taking picture correct the first time. The only time I see that is if you get that once-in-a-lifetime shot and you're like, oh my God, it's out of focus, mm-hmm. or something that you can recover. There's no doubt I use Lightroom all the time on every picture to adjust it afterwards, and I'm thankful for it. Shooting in RAW has definitely helped in getting the better quality out of my pictures, but it's got to start at the beginning anyway.
I agree.
Taking the picture correct.
What I was going to say about it is Adobe has admitted that they cheated a little bit in that demo video. So if you looked at the video that I put in the show notes last week, Adobe has admitted they cheated a little bit and that they used a photo that was actually in focus. They then defocused it, and then as part of the demo, they refocused it back. Now they're claiming, hey, this is still early stages. It will ultimately do what we're saying it'll do, but for this demo, we just wanted to show something, unique. So show it how it should work. Now they do say if you watch the video, there were some others where there was text and stuff. They say that was pure, camera shake that caused that and everything. So we'll see. What comes out of this? They're not saying anytime soon, so whether that be CS6, I doubt it, probably be somewhere down the road. So that's a little follow-up on that. Then way back, a lot of listeners maybe not have listened this far back, but way back in show number 4, Tim's first show, we talked about Blue Hour. And I had actually never heard of Blue Hour. And I think I mistakenly said that maybe Blue Hour and Golden Hour are interchangeable. So this weekend, wife and I were heading up to North Georgia to take some pictures of the fall colors, and I wanted to find out what time is golden hour. What time is the time in the morning, when you have that best light. So Tim had that site for Blue Hour. I went there and said, well, it doesn't give you golden hour. So then I started thinking, what is Blue Hour versus golden hour? Are those really interchangeable? So a quick Google search found, no, they're not. I was wrong. Blue Hour is the hour before sunrise and after sunset. Golden hour is the hour after sunrise and before sunset. So think of it as golden hour is in between sunrise and sunset, and blue hour is outside of sunrise and sunset. It's not always exactly an hour. Depends on the time of year, where you live, that kind of stuff. But I have up here in the window a website. Tim, yours had just for blue hour.
Correct.
This website, and I'll put this in the show notes. This website will do both. It'll do blue hour and golden hour and tell you, you tell it where you're at in the country or the world, and it will tell you, it'll tell you what the times are for blue hour and golden hour.
Well, that's another site that I'll have marked.
Yeah. So it also gives you moon phases, which I didn't really want, but as you can see, it's coming up here. It has a lot of. You're not going to be able to read this, of course, but it has a lot of text there, and it's a good general guide. Now the problem for us was while I had this guide, I didn't have a set destination when I went up into the mountains, so we were just driving around looking for something. So it turned out okay. It's still got to spend a day with the wife without the kids, so that was nice.
Well, I saw your pictures up on Facebook from the weekend. I was like, man, Long Island just does not get the fall colors like that, not at all.
Yeah, well, those were HDR shots, so that they got a little bit enhanced. Anyway, the next piece of news I have is there's some rumors, and there's always rumors about different cameras, but there's rumors about some new Nikons coming out. Rachel, what do you shoot? Nikon or Canon?
Nikon all the way.
Awesome.
I mean, I'm not against Canon, and I even had a status update today about it, but I started Nikon, so I've stuck with it, and I like it.
Well,
I'm obviously one of the very few. I had a Minolta for a long time, and I now am Sony because all my lenses are Sony, and I couldn't bear to get rid of all my glass. I have way too much.
Well, Tim, you'll be interested to know that a guy, an hour before I left to come home from work today, one of the guys in our office came over and said, I got this awesome new camera. Take a look at it. It was a new Sony, one of those one with the translucent things. The one we talked about a couple of shows ago. Yeah, he got a new Sony. So
yeah, I'm looking to get it soon.
He's loving it. So, but the new Nikon rumors. Let's get to that. Now, what they're calling it is the D800. I've read some different things about whether it is a replacement for the D700 or whether it's the new D4X or something like that. I think from what I've read, it's probably not the new D4X.
Yeah,
it is probably the D700 replacement. There's been rumors whether it's a 36 megapixel or a 24 megapixel. This one website saying 99% probability is 36. I think the same website recently said it was 24. So, whatever it is, it's going to be huge. It's going to be a little bit slower in the frames per second than, what I think the 700 is now. It definitely is slower than what the D3S is. And then they're also talking about a new D4, which will replace the D3S, which is Nikon's top of the line sports camera. And that one's going to be 16 to 18 megapixels. For me, that's kind of in the range where I would like 16 to 18 megapixels. I think for me personally, what I shoot, getting into the 20s, 30s, that's getting a little too much for me. What about you guys?
I'm fine up in that range. That's even though I know the A77 is higher than that. After that, you're just using a lot. I'm not really enlarging a lot of my pictures, so you're using a lot of space that you really don't need. And granted, now you can crop out the picture a lot better if you want. So maybe you're going to take a little bit of wider shot and then post crop it, but that's got to be a lot of space if you take a lot of pictures. And Mike, you take a ton of pictures.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you shoot. If maybe Rachel, what do you think of that?
Well, I'm on the D700, so I am on the predecessor to the D800, and I frame the shot how I'm going to print it. I hardly ever crop my photos. No real rhyme or reason to it. I have the shot. I've already framed it of how I see it in my mind, how I want my art to look, and so I don't really see a need to have to crop down. I mean, I think if you're doing sports and you need to get closer or for whatever reason, but I have no reason for it.
Yeah, I've never really liked cropping too much either, and that's maybe comes from when I was shooting sports, and I've seen other people where they would crop down into maybe some weird dimensions too, and then somebody would want to print, and now you got trouble because you've cropped to a weird dimension, or maybe you crop too much, and a person wants a 20 by 30, and that what was a decent image when it was full resolution, now that you've cropped it down, you've got a problem, and that you're going to have trouble printing that big. And then if you print something different than what the person saw, so let's say you cropped in tight on a soccer player, and then you print it and it's not nearly as tight, they're going to know, and you're going to have some trouble. So I've resisted from doing much cropping, but now that I don't shoot anything for money, I just shoot for fun. I can be a little more free.
One thing that someone asked in the chat room, if I ever come up short for like a canvas, I always try to leave a little room anyways, because I never know what product that my client's going to want. I really hardly ever shoot all the way to the edge of the frame. So I have a little wiggle room. And I think also, I don't know if this is important to note, it's a question I get a lot is about cropping for printing. I do crop to print sometimes. And that's just to ensure that I can show the client what an 8x10, because an 8x10 is going to cut differently than another size. And so they may lose a little of the sides or the scenery. But I don't do drastic cropping, I guess is what I should have said earlier.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, that's the news I had. I don't have any other news. Tim, do you have anything, or y'all want to add anything to that?
No, nothing this week. I'm still waiting for one piece of software to update for my iPad, and then I'm going to bring it up. Okay.
All right. So let's head into the feature, and that is Rachel. And Rachel, I would like to start off with your article on RAW. And I don't want to beat everybody over the head with RAW, but since that was one of the first things that attracted me to, actually the first thing that attracted me was your photos. This is what made me
dig deeper.
Yes. See if I can get it here. And you're going to see the article in chat, but you're probably not going to be able to read it. We're going to either go through it too fast, or the quality's not going to be good enough. So don't worry about reading it. You can go to Rachel's site and read it later.
If you Google my name plus shooting and RAW, it comes up.
Yeah. So won't you tell us a little bit about maybe why you even wrote the article? Were you getting questions from people?
Typically, my blog posts arise in workshops, arise out of questions that I get on a regular basis. My email inbox is flooded daily, which is fantastic. I love it. I love to help, but I was finding the same questions over and over. And so by creating blog posts, such as the one about RAW, I'm able to direct people and then say, if you have any questions on top of this, feel free to message me, which will probably spur on another blog post. One of my biggest things about shooting, and we kind of alluded to this earlier, is I want the camera to do the least amount of work for me. I want to have full control over the camera. And my biggest thing about shooting RAW, and there's other photographers that completely disagree with me, and that's fine. I just found this is what works for me. This is what I'm comfortable with. With RAW, the camera isn't doing any processing. And in this blog post, you'll see Morgan, last week's guest and my business partner. She has provided some pictures as well. The one actually shown is my baby girl, but she provided pictures from showing the difference between the JPEG processing and what a RAW processing comes out. RAW, essentially, there is no processing. That's the beauty of it. It's very daunting to switch, but I just like having full control over my picture. I want the camera to do the least amount of work possible for me.
Okay. And in this image that we're seeing of your daughter here, was this showing, were these straight out of the camera, or what was this showing?
This actually was a complete accident, and this is why I don't shoot many children. The one on the left, I just wanted her to pay attention to me. I was in manual, and it was completely underexposed. Well, I didn't notice it till we got home. We just pulled over the side of the road to take these shots, and I just wanted, and I like to see often when I do underexpose, sometimes it's purposeful, sometimes it's not. Like this one wasn't, and I just wanted to see how well it would recover. Well, it recovered decently well, and I thought it would be a great example to show why it's good to shoot in RAW, because say, what if you accidentally flip the dial? We're all human, and you're shooting a wedding, and the first kiss is too dark. Not to say that 100% of the time you're going to be able to recover it, but by having the option in RAW, you do have that option. Once it's in JPEG, there's pretty much no recovery that could be done.
Yeah, I've read that there's about a one stop or more, maybe sometimes even more, of headroom in RAW versus JPEG. So in other words, you know, where whatever adjustments you can make to a RAW image, you can go about one stop further with a RAW. I mean, whatever you can do in JPEG, you can do about one stop more with RAW and get that quality out there. Plus, you know, not only that, not only on the exposure side, but like I use quite often is I shot an entire soccer game one time with the wrong white balance. I typically either manually set my white balance, either off of a gray card or something like that, or just use 5600. For whatever reason, I had it set on like flash, and I shot the entire game, and when I got home, everything was blue. But the beauty with RAW is I just made one change, copied it to every one of the images, and bam, there you go, 300 images instantly corrected.
Well, I think a lot of people are really intimidated by RAW. One of the questions I've seen lately is, I don't like how RAW processes. Like I said earlier, you're not processing, you have control. So it's just kind of learning what is best for you on how to fix it. I have gotten it down, like you said, the one click of changing white balance. I can now change my white balance. If I don't do a custom white balance, one click and I'm pretty much there. A couple sliders and I can look at it and I can completely get what I want. Well, for the most part, I mean, we're not all perfect, but more so than with JPEG. I was really frustrated when I started out with JPEG camera. One of the things with skin tones that a lot of newborns, a lot of new photographers have problems with, and I still even struggle with it, with skin tone. Well, JPEG, like the picture that you guys can see that Morgan provided, JPEG actually ruins skin tones, in my opinion. I mean, there's people that are going to disagree with me. It gives them more of an Oompa Loompa orange color than the true to skin color.
Yeah.
I agree with you, and I switched to RAW probably about a year ago, and it probably coincided with when I switched to Lightroom, because Lightroom made it so easy to process RAW pictures. And one thing I did different than Mike, I import everything and convert it to Adobe DNG at the same time, so it's now in a RAW format, and it's definitely helped me, helped every one of my pictures, and I won't go back. I only shoot RAW. I don't shoot RAW plus JPEG. It's just RAW now.
Well, that was one of the questions they just had in the chat room.
Yeah, that's why I said that.
I shoot RAW plus JPEG. I don't really have a good answer as to why, because I wouldn't say never. I pretty much hardly use the JPEGs. And I don't know why. My exposure could be spot on, but I'm still going to open a RAW. I guess I just like the control that I have in RAW when the Adobe Camera RAW opens up. I mostly use JPEGs when I'm shooting personal stuff.
Now, you just said Adobe Camera RAW, which makes me think you use Photoshop and not Lightroom.
Right. I can never get Lightroom.
Okay.
It was more laziness on my part figuring it out. It was overwhelming to me. I actually started way back on, was it Paint Shop Pro? And so transitioning from Paint Shop Pro to GIMP, which was the Mac version, and then to Photoshop was real easy and seamless for me.
Yeah. Well, Lightroom is really a lot different than anything like Photoshop or anything like that. And I downloaded the trial, and I've said this before. 17 days into the trial, I said, "This is horrible. I cannot get used to this."
Yeah, me
But
too.
somewhere in those last few days, something clicked for me, and it's like now I love Lightroom. It doesn't mean I don't use Photoshop. I use Photoshop still, but what Lightroom did for me, because I was like you, and I think TR Photos out there was talking about shooting JPEG plus RAW. That's what I did. I shot JPEG plus RAW. I'd bring the JPEG home. I could get them up on my website really fast, and then if anybody wanted to order a print, I would then go back to the RAW. Lightroom has made it where it's actually my workflow is even faster, only shooting RAW. But I think you got JPEG plus RAW as a way to ease into it.
Oh, definitely. Because if you're too scared, your JPEG's already there. Now, supposedly, it takes up more card space, and I'm sure some scientific person could explain to me that it does. I haven't seen a difference, honestly, but I use 16 gig cards.
Yeah,
well, it's definitely a difference, because if I switch in my camera from RAW and I'm using an 8 gig card, I think I can get about 700 pictures on it. And if I switch to RAW JPEG, I probably get about 1,100 on there.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm not taking 700 pictures at one time, so I'm not worried about that either.
No,
I'd probably have more than one card then too, anyway.
But
I do.
That's one of the things that you can tell that why RAW should, in theory, be better, because a RAW image the file size is going to be quite a bit bigger than a JPEG image.
Yeah.
But for me, 16 gig cards have gotten so cheap.
Oh yeah.
You might as well just get a 16 gig card.
Amazon has them half price all the time, and whenever I see that, I buy a couple.
Well, you got the storage space afterwards where you're going to store them on your computer, but hard drives are getting cheaper too. It's all a matter of working out how you're going to handle it. But I don't want to spend forever on this one article. We got plenty of other things to talk about. I would just say head out to Rachel's site and read this article amongst her other articles.
And just email me if you have any questions. I even have a tidbit, I think, on how to process RAW and how I do it, and that should be able to help a little bit ease the overwhelmingness of shooting that way.
So let's see if I can find this other article of yours.
Okay.
I want to go back to the article about when you got started.
Oh no. Oh no.
One with the plastic baby.
Oh no, that was Morgan. Man, we should have her here. If she's listening, Morgan, I was thinking about it today, and I love you for saying that to me.
The plastic baby?
Yes.
All right, where is that?
And that plastic baby was my baby, the little one we just saw a little bit ago. It's right there. If you go back up a little bit, it's on the bottom. It's the journey and RBP steps.
Journey?
Yeah, right there's the plastic baby.
You're coming up on it.
Yep, go up a little bit. There you go.
It's coming.
Oh gosh, you guys.
Well, but I think this is important. This is important for people who are getting into it, because this is talking a little bit about your journey and what went right, what went wrong, and I imagine at the time Morgan was a good friend.
No.
Oh, she wasn't. She was just more of an acquaintance.
She actually was just a local photographer that I was trying to get to know.
But she told you what you needed to hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we joke about it because we do workshops together. We have F-Stop Frenzy together, and we tell people. I defriended her on Facebook, which is like the ultimate, offense to do, and I wouldn't talk to her for a couple months.
Yeah, but ultimately, I think your opinion of that has changed now.
Oh yeah, I love her. I love her for making me cry. As weird as that sounds.
Well, it's sort of like if you're an American Idol fan and you watch American Idol and they get people up on the stage, and for whatever reason they're learning for the first time that they're really not that good, and you wonder, who has been telling them this all along, and somebody should have shared that all along. So in this case, it wasn't. Morgan was telling you what she thought of the photos, but I think the important thing is in the way she said it, because coming across the internet, if somebody told you across the internet, it's hard to convey the feeling along with it, and a lot of times it's a random person, and it's more hurtful. But in this case, it was helpful because Morgan's intent was to help out. So if you wouldn't mind walk us through a little bit of this article, and I'll go down to the plastic baby.
Okay. Well, you guys have already heard about my background, and that's at the top, plastic baby. And I wrote this, and I'm not pretending to be fantastic. I don't even think my journey has ended, but I learned a really important lesson when Morgan told me that my baby looked plastic. Now, that's still one of my favorite pictures because that's my baby. That one of the big, I think that newer photographers need to, when you ask for criticism, you need to be ready to take it. Don't ask about photos that you're emotionally attached to. Because this is my baby, I was really offended, really, really offended. Had it been another, a client or somebody, I might not have been so offended by it. So just take it as a grain of salt. There's going to be people that are mean. I really try not to be mean. I use the sandwich method. I try to do one positive in between in the sandwich, put a little constructive, negative, and then another positive. We all have good aspects of our photographs. There has to be at least, there's always one good thing, I think, even if it's you just trying, even if you're just trying your heart out. So anyways, this was the plastic baby picture that made me completely reevaluate, because I made the mistake that many do. I got a DSLR for Christmas, and because we were going to have Olivia, and my husband said it's the worst Christmas present he's ever given me.
Wow.
It's been great too, because it's led to this business, and I jumped feet first in. I even had my MBA, and I was not running a legit business. I was not filed with the state. I was charging like $20 for a CD. I didn't know what I was doing. I was shooting on auto. I was making all the key mistakes that a photographer makes. And so when Morgan told me this about the plastic baby, sorry, my husband came to glare at me because he heard me. When Morgan told me about the plastic baby, it made me go, well, what am I really doing to these clients? If I'm really catering to clients, what am I giving them? I'm giving them nothing more than me pressing a shutter. And so anyway, so that's what started this whole blog post.
So the plastic baby, the one on the left here. Imagine she's making a face. You didn't morph her face to be like that.
No, that was just her face. She was just kind of, what are you doing? And this was my mock setup. You can't see it, but it was a sheet hanging from a dresser. And this actually goes into one of the things that they were talking about before we started the show, was finding your specialization. I saw that there was a demand for children photographers. Well, I ground that wheel to find out that I'm not good at it. But I wanted to do it because I thought that's what I needed to do. Even the one on the right is one I did this past summer. I don't really care for it. I did it because it was for a friend, but I think it's definitely better than the plastic baby.
Yeah. So that's a key point that I want to mention for a second. So you got into the baby to toddler photography, whatever, and realized that's not what you really want to do. Yes. So, and I think there's so many different areas of photography you can get into that you just, chose a different area that you either like better or that you're better at or whatever. And that really being happy with what you're doing, and not just in photography, but in anything is huge. So there's one on the left, the one of your baby.
Yeah.
Tell us a few things about what is wrong with it, other than her look.
Well, if I could remember the EXIF data, I'm pretty sure it's not on manual. I'm almost 100% sure it's not on manual. It's where do I start? My goodness. It's over-processed with multiple actions that I didn't adjust layers. I didn't do any masking. It was slow shutter speed, so it was out of focus, and I tried to sharpen it.
So how much editing do you normally do? Because if you're starting off with an image that is slightly out of focus, overexposed, you're really starting off at a bad spot. So typically now, let's say how much time do you spend editing? I don't want to set expectation bars. I really try to turn around a regular session in 48 hours because I have automated my workflow. I do utilize some actions, but I've created my own because I found I was doing the same steps over and over and over. And you guys were saying that Lightroom is so easy to use. You can just, a couple clicks. Well, with Photoshop, I can use the automate button,
and since my workflow is condensed for me, I can drag all the pictures, automate it, and it will run my personal action, my workflow on all the pictures. So I can walk away, come back, do the adjustments of layers, do some masking, and I'm done. I probably spend on average, as long as it's good exposure and I'm happy with it, with the setup and so forth, per picture, not more than 2 minutes, if that.
Okay. When you were first starting out, did you ever, this would be my fear. If I was started, and I have no intention of ever becoming a pro, but my fear would be I'd go out there, would do something, come back and look at the images, and they're all junk. None of them are as sharp as they should be. They're all, and it's like, I guess at that point I have a choice either to redo the shoot, which makes me look unprofessional, or put out something I normally wouldn't want to put out. Did you ever have anything like that, or know of any photographers that had?
I still have that. I will pull over to the side of the road, look at the LCD, and start crying and call Morgan and tell her how much I hate him, and she has to talk me down from a ledge that I'm sure it's fine. But when I tried to do a newborn shoot for a friend this summer, I did it as a friend, but now I realize I'd be more of a friend by declining.
Yeah.
And she told me again, it sucks. And I cried and cried. I offered to reshoot. We just ended up not rescheduling. And I feel so awful that their newborn session was wasted on not good pictures.
So that was a newborn session, but you're not doing too many infants anymore, right?
No, I refuse.
But that's important, because you want to put out a good thing to the client. You don't want to be putting out bad stuff, and if you're not into it or good at the infant thing, then you move on to something else. Now,
I still have some couple shoots that I'm not 100% keen on. It's not the clients at all. They may think that it's them, but it's not. It'll be me. I don't think that it's artistically what I want, the level that I want. And anything that you put out on the internet is you. You're selling you.
Absolutely. And you should put on your website, unless you're doing an article like this talking about before and after.
Yeah.
You should only put your best work out on your website, because and I've done this before. There's a lady in chat right now, Kathleen Bowie, who, when I first started off this podcast, actually before it, I had wanted to talk with her, and I was looking at photos of photographers in my area, and you'd be surprised at how many websites I come across, and that's what you see, and you think, if this is your best work, what are you giving your clients? And
to be fair though, I did that when I thought I was going to be a kid photographer, because it was the best that I had at the time. I just shudder at the thought of some of the things that I had up. And a couple of my really good friends are in the chat, and they could more than tell you that it's true.
Well, how do you I kind of left that in a spot where it kind of almost sounded like I was saying Kathleen's photos were like that. She was the exact opposite. When I hit that website, it was the exact opposite. So I didn't want to leave the conversation halfway there. But back to what you're talking about. How do you, if that's where you start off with, how do you eventually get the photos to do a good website?
Attend workshops. A lot of it is trust when you're first starting and you don't have that great of portfolio. Beg your friends, do free shoots. When I feel like I'm sucked for creativeness, I will offer a free session. I don't tell any people that, but I will do it, and then be surprised at how well that comes back. Oh gosh, that's an awful picture. Of how bad that, it comes back around, because then referrals happen. So I just think continue to keep shooting and put the best that you have, because lay people that aren't photographers, what you may think is not very good, even though it's your best, may be fantastic to them. And at the end of the day, we are in a service-based business. We are providing to what the clients want.
Yeah, it is sometimes surprising how non-photographers, what they think is good. I once had somebody take a thumbnail image off of my website, and they told me the next soccer game that they have it framed in their house in an 8x10 frame. Dear God, that's got to be awful.
How did they print that?
I said, tell me what the image was, and I'll print it for you. That I don't want that thing up on your wall and my name attached to it.
Yeah.
But so we're still in that article, and you said something about this photo, the one that's going to come up here in chat in just a second. Mm-hmm. That one's not good. So we're not kind of reading through it, but so this article is talking about how you move from.
It was just my progression to show where I was when I first I'm trying to think when I took that picture, the plastic baby. Pretty much when I really was serious. I didn't get my camera intending to go do this as a business, but this one right here, the couple that you guys will see in a second, with the blue background, that was one of my first couple sessions. And it's just remarkable to see the difference. One of my favorite sessions is the one right after that with the vintage couple.
Yeah, the one I have up here now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was hoping you were going to say this is when you started getting good, because I love this shot.
The girl on the right in that picture is actually in the chat room right now. So
is that her husband?
Oh, she's what she said before I recognized that picture.
Is that her?
So yeah, I've actually found that, and this is part of finding what you like best. I love the creative sessions. So when I said I wanted to do vintage, and she's like, "Ooh, me." It just kind of, this actually I think is when I really fell into my editing, my style, and my shooting niche. My creativeness came out. I was able to do what I want to do. She let me do what I want to do. I mean, I'm friends with her and her husband, and basically I could do what I wanted. And so it opened up creativity, and I just think everything kind of exploded from there.
Yeah, not only do I love the vintage of the shot, but even the pose that they're doing, I everything about this shot. And the things you have in the background, nothing in this shot would tell you, it's not like a modern car back there or anything like that. Everything in this image just says, a vintage. I really like that one.
I agree. It's a wonderful shot.
Someone asked, wasn't this a recent session? And yes, I feel like I didn't really develop myself until this past summer. I may have been chugging along okay, but I really felt this past summer, once I got into the creativeness, I really fell into what I wanted to be how I wanted to be seen in my pictures.
Okay, now tell me about the one on the left here.
Oh my goodness gracious. Overuse of a fake sun flare. Or you talk about the maternity one?
Yes.
This is actually a perfect one because I learned so much with this picture. I had put this on a message board and I was ripped apart and I cried and cried. This was before Plastic Baby, but I still hadn't listened at that point. Some of the major things that I learned about how to shoot are out of this picture. I'm in full sun. Yeah, it's a no-no. Our right side, her left side of her face is dark, needed a reflector. It's very motion blurred. My shutter speed here was probably 120, and I think I was shooting. I think I was auto, because this is one of my very first sessions that I did. I hope I didn't charge her. I'm still friends with her. I have to ask her. But I mean, I even came back when I wrote this post. I was like, please let me redo a maternity session. But I think that's one of the great things is take your photos and what you don't like about them and talk to someone. Pick the things that you don't like. That's the one thing that I didn't like. I didn't like how fuzzy it looked. So I learned where I needed my shutter speed to be.
Yeah, so in this case, the one on the left is the before, basically, and the one on the right is the after, right?
Right, the right was this summer.
Yeah, I like that pose too.
Well, I think it's more pleasing, the photo on the right.
Yeah.
Now, if going with the theme of left is the bad one, right is the good one. I don't see anything major wrong with the one left here. It's not. Her holding the shoes is
she's out of focus. The focus is on the shoes, which is okay. I just don't think it was enough for it to be artistic. Her skin color is completely off. She to me looks orange. It's really not that bad, but I think it was very here, hold these boots.
Yeah. Well, what appears to be happening is your bad is getting better.
Yeah. You're bad at my goods.
Well, and this one was the same place as the maternity one. I don't know. I just don't like it. It's just not appealing to me.
All right. So
one of the questions in the chat room is where do I keep my shutter speed? And this is something if you listen to Morgan's chat that we vary on. And I have found that I have to stay 1/500. I shake. Yeah, someone just typed that. I shake when I shoot. I shoot and move really quickly. I'm kind of like a ninja. And so I have found that 500 gives me the crispness that I want. It helps my focus because you move your camera when you click the shutter, whether you realize it or not. Like Morgan can shoot less than that. I can't do less than 500.
Yeah, I can't be as still as Morgan. Now, shooting at 1/500, what are you typically doing for an aperture? And mainly, do you have a favorite lens or lenses?
Oh, yes, this is my favorite question. Most of my lenses are 1.4, 1.8. I shoot the lowest that I can go. Yeah, Lauren said it, the 85. I love my 85. I love the 85 1.8. That was a fabulous lens. That vintage session was actually shot on the 85 1.8. I have the 1.4 now. I just think that the longer lenses are more flattering to the subject. Anything longer. I know Canon has a 135L that I would love to try. I just feel like I'd have to be too far back from my subjects. 85 still allows me to have that closeness. And a lot of the things that I hear from people is that they feel like they can't shoot 85 because they don't feel connected with their clients. Well, with couples, I can yell. With kids, I need to be closer. Couples, I can say, move your hand, do this, and talk to them. And I don't need to be as close and intimate as you do with children.
Well, and you're also shooting on a full frame camera, right?
The
700?
That vintage was on a crop. It was on the D90, actually.
Because I believe the 85, 85, of course, on a full frame, it's 85. But, 50 on a full frame is going to be, on a crop sensor, is going to be, 75 or something
75.
like that? Yeah.
Is it 75? It's right, 75, 85. It's about...
Well, you're using a Nikon. Is that a 1.5 or a 1.6?
Most Nikons are 1.5.
Yes.
I know Canons go anywhere from
Canon's like 1.6.
And I think they even have some 1.3s on the Canon side. But yeah, I have an 85 1.8, and I love that lens. I don't know if I would spend the money for a 1.4. But I also, we're talking with Morgan last week. I really want to get the 35.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, I don't care for the 35. She's singing to my Yang.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the only lens she uses.
Okay.
And I have the 85 1.4 from when I was using film, and I love that. I probably preferred it on film than I do on digital, because sometimes I feel like I'm too far away. I'm standing 12 feet away from the subject, and sometimes, especially if I'm taking my son, he wants to jump away. He doesn't pay attention. So sometimes I'll jump over to my 50 1.4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the other question, along with that, shooting 1/500 and what lens, what aperture are you typically at? Because you got some really nice blur.
Mm-hmm. I'm typically at the lowest that I can go and find my sweet spot, and that was something I was going to say about the 85. With the Nikon 85 1.8, I could be down to 1.8 and get the sharpness that I wanted. I haven't found that with any other lens. I found that I need to be a couple stops up. On the 1.4s, I typically shoot about a 1.6.
Now, you're shooting manual, or are you shooting it sounded like before you said you're shooting manual all the time.
Manual settings, not, I autofocus.
Well, yeah, I'm autofocus, except this past 2 weeks when I take soccer photography, I've been going into manual focus, but for the exposure settings, you're in manual.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Always.
I'm trying to convince Mike to go manual.
So even this is what kills me with you guys. Even with outdoor photography, you were shooting manual.
I don't know how to shoot any other way now.
Now what I shoot. I don't shoot auto. I don't even know if there's an auto setting on my camera, but I am shooting aperture mode. So I'm telling it what aperture and then letting it decide to shutter.
Your shutter speed's still not going to be to give you the sharpness that you want. Because your camera's deciding for you. I mean, if you're happy with it, I wasn't happy with it. I'm not going to tell you what to do.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Have me back.
We'll love to have you back. You're doing great. So you said the sharpness I wanted. Because you mean the shutter speed may drop too low?
Yes.
So
because I think the sharpness, especially for portraits and up close, comes out of the higher shutter speeds.
Absolutely. That's one of the things when I shot soccer. 1/500 was the absolute bare minimum, and of course I'm shooting with a 120 to 300 on a monopod. I couldn't handhold that thing. But what I do, that sounds weird, but what I do is when I am taking photos on the aperture mode is I check, what is the histogram doing? Does it look like it's pushed to one side or the other? Do I have what I call the blinkies? And I got a funny story to tell you about blinkies in just a second. But I look at that, and if it is looking underexposed, overexposed, then I do the plus minus on the exposure, and I get my stuff that way. I don't think I'm good enough to go to full manual like you guys.
Oh yes, you are.
I'll
Well,
tell you,
you brought up the histograms. If you're learning manual and you're listening, I personally think ignore the histogram. You want to focus on your settings because there's so much going on. And because if I shoot someone that's wearing all black, well, depending on my metering, I mean, there's always way around it. Anyways, I'm going to have a lot more dark in my histogram. It's not going to be a perfect little hill like I wanted to. I don't know. I guess for me, I like to keep it very simple. I don't utilize my histogram. I do the blinkies. I do use my blinkies.
Yeah, a good point you just raised is that the histogram, you can't just always look for a perfect bell curve because it depends on your subject. But what I was going to talk about with the blinkies is I was up in Helen this past weekend, which is North Georgia, with my wife, and I'm wearing regular clothes, but I guess because of the camera I'm wearing, I had 3 different people come up to me and ask me photo questions, and this one guy comes up and says,
and you said, "There's a really nice podcast you should listen to."
I know.
I thought about telling him that, and then I thought the question back would be, "In what's a podcast?" Yeah. So I didn't want to get into that. But the question was, his clock on the top of his camera was blinking, and he said, "And it's coming through on my images." And he had a Nikon D200 or something like that, or D80. I can't remember exactly what it was. I said, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Let me see that. And he showed me the top of his camera, and sure enough, the clock was blinking. And I said, oh, you just need to set it in your menu. The clock hasn't been set yet. He goes, okay, but they're coming through in my images. And I said, that doesn't make sense. Can you take a photo for me and let me see what you're talking about? So he did, and he took the photo and he pointed it to me, and part of his image was blinking. He says, see, the blinking clock is coming through on my images. I said, oh no, that is not the clock. And I explained to him, why that's so important, the blinkies, and it's showing you what's blown out. And having blinkies go off is not always bad. It's some things are going to blow out because unless you're shooting HDR, you may not be able to get the entire dynamic range. And also, that's another thing with JPEG and RAW. That blinky that you're seeing on the back of your camera is the JPEG image, even if you're shooting just RAWs.
Right.
The RAW has a JPEG embedded, and that's showing you the JPEG. So if you got a little bit of blinkies, you could probably recover that with a RAW image.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I don't know if anyone really knows. If there might be some that are questioning what we're calling blinkies. You can set your camera and for your Dolby Camera RAW to blink your highlights and lowlights. Since I do shoot at such a wide aperture, I get a lot of quote-unquote blown out sky or portion, especially when I do a lot of backlit shooting. So that's the blinkies. And they come in handy, especially like on skin, because I don't want to blow out the skin.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry.
No, that's good.
That's the teacher in me. So,
we want to talk a little bit about the business side of photography, and what it takes to, if you're starting off, if you are going from I'm just taking photos for fun to becoming a pro that's going to be charging. You tell us a little bit about the the challenges there, what you need to do. How do you convert?
Well, it's very overwhelming. I mean, I have degrees in it, and I still am like, the great thing about it is that I have found a lot of local workforce commissions. I know Texas has a workforce commission. A lot of states are now making it easier for small business owners to open up, and that you can figure out what you need to do. The problem with that is there's such a plethora of information out there. You don't really know what you need to do to be legit. It kind of depends. You need to sit down and decide what kind of business structure you want to be. You've got the sole proprietor where you're the sole owner, limited liability company, so forth. So there's all sorts of different ways that you can structure yourself, and that's kind of where you go from there. But the biggest thing is to make sure that you're registered with your state. Make sure you're registered with paying your taxes. Because I know in the state of Texas, for every day that you hold yourself out as a business and you haven't registered with them, you can be fined $500, and at some point you can get jail time. I don't really look good in black and white stripes. I stick to the tan, so I don't want to go to jail. So I guess what I'm trying to say, since I'm rambling, is that it's overwhelming. Do your research. I, shameless plug, have a workshop that I actually help walk you through for your location in order to set up. There's pluses and minuses to each way that you business structure that you choose. I wouldn't say one is more right than the other. But just do it legit. If you value your art, you value the industry and the other people in it, be legit about it. Pay your taxes. Trust me, it sucks. Every time I sit down to pay it, I absolutely hate doing it. But then I remind myself, well, I got to practice what I preach.
Yeah.
And I really can't afford $500 a day fine.
Oh,
Well, the good thing is if you're paying taxes, at least you know you're making money.
Yeah, maybe.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
So what about insurance? Do you have any kind of, do you need to get any kind of insurance?
I have limited liability insurance through Professional Photographers of America. And actually what's great is October 1st, they started a new thing with your membership. You get that liability insurance, but they also now have coverage as part of your membership fee on your equipment. And I can't remember if it's up to $20,000. I'm not 100% sure, but it's fantastic. It's a fantastic deal. That's only a couple $100s a year. You can also go get personal business insurance on your equipment, which I highly recommend. And there's other liability insurances out there that you can use. You never know. I mean, I'm in law school. You never know when people are going to get lawsuit happy, especially doing weddings. That's a very big day. You can't do it over. You want to be protected. Even if you do everything right, you have no idea what the other party is thinking.
Yeah, and your homeowner's insurance or something like this, some existing insurance you have is not going to cover you there, right?
And that's a very important point. A lot of people think that their business equipment will be covered by homeowners insurance. I know that some people have told me there's some plans out there that will. My insurance told me we will not cover it. Well, I have the D700. That's a pretty expensive camera. So if something happens to my house, it's not going to cover that camera.
Because you're using it for business?
Yes, because I'm using it for business. Sorry. Yeah, I thought I said that.
Yeah, I think, my policy, since I'm not using it for business, I think I may have to I only have a certain amount of coverage for incidentals and stuff. So, if you have a lot of expensive camera gear, even if you're not a business, it may not cover it. So you might have to have like an extra rider. Yeah,
agreed. Can I clarify something? I just saw in the chat room they were talking about, I thought in Texas we didn't have to have a license. You don't, but if you have to have something called a doing business as or a DBA. Like my name's pretty close to my regular name, but since I have photography on it, the state needs to know that I'm registered as such. I also have to be registered for a sales tax permit to be able to acquire sales tax. And you also have to have your federal ID. So that's what I mean with licensing. I don't necessarily mean I need to have a business license. And when you go to your individual website to sign up to do all this information, it will walk you through. And like I said, my workshop helps you to clarify those questions. So some states do require a license. Texas doesn't.
So you have to collect sales tax too?
Yeah.
Oh, that just stinks.
Yeah, and like Virginia requires I have to submit sales tax every month. Texas, I can do it quarterly. So it kind of depends. You got to know your location.
Yeah. Yeah, we do business, not a photography business, the company I actually work for. And there's states that make us prepay sales tax. Louisiana, I'm from Louisiana. But Louisiana is one of those states where we have to pay our sales tax before we actually collect it. So
someone just asked, if you're not making money, how do you decide when or how to be legit? When I had enough people that were wanting to pay me, then I became legit. I didn't take any money besides the fault that I made last year. I didn't start taking money until I became legit. Trust me, I wasn't making enough to be fined $500 a day. But and someone else mentioned earlier in the chat room, you take $1, you're supposed to report it. And that's by law. You need to go by it. Be true to yourself, be true to your business.
And I would recommend that if you're getting into a business, you probably should see a tax attorney or an accountant, something like that. So we don't, there's your area may be so different from someone else's. We don't want to give too much advice that, don't depend on everything here, but, there may also be differences between what the IRS may consider a business and what your local area may require for a business license. Because I think the IRS rules are you got to make a profit in so many years, or else you'll be considered a hobby.
But they still want to know.
They still want to know.
That's the thing. They want to know, and they can still fine you. Even if you haven't reached that point, they'll still fine you.
Yeah, and there's cases, you ask, well, how can somebody like, some of these large companies that lose money every year, why aren't they a hobby rather than a business. I mean, you can still make the case that you're actually an actual business, but the general definition is, I think it's 3 out of 5 years you got to make a profit. But even with that, you may have different local rules that require business license and that kind of stuff,
Right.
outside of whether you're actually making a profit.
Well, I think one of the biggest things is if you're really concerned because you're not making money, you might be portfolio building, which I know some of these viewers are.
Yeah.
The doing business as license, well, I hate to call it a license, $8. It's good for me for 10 years. I, as a sole proprietor, don't have to pay anything. My federal tax ID is free. Signing up for my sales tax permit with the state is free. So essentially, I'm only paying $8 to be a business.
Sounds reasonable.
Very good.
That's reasonable.
It's paperwork. It's pretty much what it is.
Before just taking a break here, with this just shot here,
Yes.
was this a vintage shot also?
Yes.
I
Wait,
guess
that one? Yeah, the carnival one.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
loving your vintage.
She's also a photographer, and she wanted to do a vintage at the carnival, and I jumped on it.
I am loving your vintage stuff.
Thank you.
And then here's a couple we had before
In a different pose.
in a different pose, a different location. But you're keeping the theme. There's nothing here that gives away that it's modern day. The picket,
That could be a white picket fence from the 50s easily.
yeah, the picket fence.
Well, the good thing is those were shot in Virginia. Virginia is full of very historical places, and I think that's where great plug for. It's very important that you pick your locations for your lighting and the feel and look. I did a lot of research for the vintage session because I wanted to give that feel. I didn't want any modern in it at all.
Yeah. All right. Any other article you want me to go to here real quick?
I don't have anything. Does anyone in chat room have any questions? We only have a couple more minutes.
Yeah, we're getting close to the hour, and I know we
One
didn't.
question that just came up was, do you edit differently on your vintage shots than your other type of photography? In other words, to make it look vintage.
No, not really. Because I'm really not, unless my client requests to do like a sepia black and white or more of a vintage processing, I still have my modern processing on it because I'm trying to pull vintage into modern day. If that makes sense.
Mhm.
I hope.
Makes sense to me.
So again, your main.
People are saying skin color. Talk about skin color? Okay, what do you want to know about skin color?
Well, one of the questions that was asked before on skin color was, how do you know in post-processing whether you have the right skin color of the person you took the picture of?
I remember what they look like. I don't know. I hate that. Sounds like a good chintzy response, but I just kind of remember what they look like. And the good thing about JPEG, it's pretty true to skin color because there is no processing. You're getting what you see is what you get. You're shooting what you get. Granted, if you have a good exposure. If you don't have a good exposure, then you are going to have off skin color. Carla just asked, do I eye it? Yes, I eye it. Yeah, but the great thing about a lot of the workflow stuff I have, I'm able to use the same thing on every picture because it doesn't mess with skin tones. I use a lot of masking, mask back the, subjects so that my background is edited, but my skin color is preserved. And other people are asking about monitor calibration process. I'm not calibrated. I haven't found a need to. I use Miller's Lab, and my printing is true to form. I've had no issue.
Speaking on calibration, I use the Spider 3, and
I've heard great things.
It's awesome, but I have an issue that this is something to think about. I have dual monitors. I have one 24-inch and one 20-inch, and the 20-inch is on the side in portrait mode. It's turned sideways. And it's really cool for looking at websites and stuff. But there are two different makes. One's a Dell, one's a Samsung. It is incredibly difficult to get them to be synced together with the same, the same calibration. I will sit there and calibrate, and within a days, they're off. So it's important if you're going to have multiple monitors and want to do editing on multiple monitors that you actually, it's best to get the same name brand and maybe even the same size. Because as soon as you get multiple types of monitors, it's going to be difficult to sync them all together.
Well, I think the most important thing is that your colors are true to your prints, because I could go on anybody's I could go on my grandma's computer. It's from the Stone Age. It's not good. She's probably listening. She's going to get me. But it's not going to have the exact same colors as my screen does. When she goes on my website, I mean, it's going to be different colors. So I always tell my clients it's going to vary a little, but as long as it prints out how I want it to be and how it matches my screen, if I'm happy with that product, I'm good to go. A lot of people do calibrate. I haven't done it. Maybe I'll give it a chance on one of my other computers and see. I just don't want to. I don't like to mess with anything if it's not.
No, if it's working, don't mess it.
And but that it's a good point you bring up that the final print is the king. And the other point you mentioned is just because, let's say for instance, I calibrate my monitor monthly, and so I think it is as close as it can be to right, but almost everybody else who's going to be viewing my images are not calibrated the way I am.
Right.
So as soon as it leaves my computer, everyone else is seeing it in a different way.
And that's sad because I may have a bride that's on a computer that's not calibrated right, and she's gonna look at my pictures and think, "Oh, that bride's skin tone's awful." Well, to me, it looks fabulous on my computer.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm just delusional, but to her, it doesn't look good. So it's a risk you take. And like with Facebook, we hear it all the time. Everyone complains about the compression and the change of color. I see a vast difference between my pictures on Facebook and what I have on my screen. And it is just the nature of it. I want to use social media, so I go with it. I just deal with it.
Yeah, that's I had that same thing happen to me just from those shots I took over the weekend. I took them, I edited them on my computer, I uploaded them to Facebook. I looked at them and goes, "Oh my God, what happened to these things?" They all look awful now. I almost wanted to take them back down. So I don't know. Maybe you got to find a secret to edit for Facebook so that it comes out right. I don't know. There's
actions out there that are Facebook approved, and they're trying to keep up with the changes. I don't do all that much because I haven't found any that I'm really happy with. I don't know. Yeah, if someone said agreed, Facebook sucks. Well, it sucks on the pictures, but I love it for the business it brings me. So I'll be okay with the sucky pictures.
Okay. All right. Well, we, like you said, we're coming up on the hour, so we're about to wrap up this show. Rachel, you did a great job.
Thank you.
We would love to have you back. I mentioned to Rachel before the show started that there's no way we're going to get to everything that we wanted to talk to with Rachel, and that just means we get to have her back. So all you guys out there in chat, you'll have to come back when Rachel's on again. But before we end, I want to mention a few things. We're starting to get a little bit of traffic in the forums. So anybody wants to go out into our forums and post anything out there, we can talk out there. Be sure to subscribe to the show so you can listen to, our great guests like Rachel. We have 3 feeds. We have the audio only feed in case you want to listen to it on your way into work or something like that. I listen to all mine on my phone. And then we also have 2 video feeds, a video large and video small. They're generally out within a couple of days, 2-3 days after the show. And I'll post something on Facebook and whatever. So if you did miss it or wanted to go back and hear anything, you can get it that way. And we're also on Facebook as jpeg2RAW. And I'm also on Google+. And next week we're going to have someone, not actually a guy who works for Google, but a big photographer on Google+. And we're probably going to do our first show using a Google+ Hangout. Have you ever done Google+ Hangouts, Rachel?
I haven't, but I'm going to have to tune in.
Yes. And I may, if anybody out in chat is interested, I may jump over to Google+ after this and start a Hangout just to hang out there. Now, the issue is you can only have 10 people in a room at one time on Google+. So there is a limit, but they have a new screen sharing thing. Have you ever done this on Facebook where you can share the screen when you have one-on-one conversation?
Yes.
I do that with my mom when I'm helping my mom through computer problems. But it's a one-on-one. You can only have 2 people on, and you can only share one screen. I was on a podcast last night, Photographers Weekly Hangout, by Ali, I can't pronounce his last name. But what they were able to do with the Google+ Hangout is pull up an image, everybody talk about it, then go to the next person, that person pulls up an image, and everybody talk about it. And it's a really nice way to get a group of photographers together and just go through different images and talk about them. So, if anybody's interested, I'm going to go over to Google+ afterwards and send me a message, and I'll invite you into the chat. So that will end our live show for tonight. We'll hang out a little bit longer to answer any questions in chat that we might have missed. So don't leave chat quite yet. But that ends the official show. So Rachel, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Thank you everyone for coming. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to email me. It may take me a little bit to get back to you, but I will, I promise.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
All right. So now we can focus a little bit more on you guys in chat. Sorry if we missed anything during the show, but with that many people, it was hard to keep up. So any questions for Rachel before we end it?
Man, the messages are going there real fast in chat.
I know, I'm trying to keep up.
Well, Rachel, I think we hit 108 at one time.
Yay!
108.
I saw 105. That's a lot. That's a record. That's double our record.
Yes.
Yay, that's exciting.
There's yeah, that is exciting.
Someone asked, what should I do about making a website? Find a website that has the functions that you want. I went through a couple different website companies until I found the one that gave me what I wanted. So before you even start looking, make a list of what you want and the price point that you can afford. It's easy to get, Jackie said Weebly. Yeah, I use Weebly, but it's easy to get sucked into all these fun, cool things that all these websites can do. So just sit down, make a plan, stick to it. And you may have to trial and error. You may have to try a different couple. I use Weebly, weebly.com, just because I'm able to fully customize it. And since I have the workshops, I have hidden pages that you guys can't see on the front. So that was the function, and that's what sold me on it.
I'm not familiar with Weebly.
Yeah, they're a smaller company. I gutted their template. I made my own template out of theirs, which I thought was really good, because I was with a couple sites that you were stuck renting their template from them, and you were stuck with their colors. And I'm very fickle. I like to change my branding colors a lot. So I kind of wanted to have the flexibility. Yeah.
Now, does it allow people to, do you have like special areas where only the people who you shot can come in and see?
Yes.
So like password protected areas and stuff?
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of that you don't see. I have hidden galleries that are password protected or not. Kind of depends. And I can create a link and send it to them, and they can look right at it. And I leave that up for a little bit, then I can disable it. And it doesn't take up space at all. I don't have to resize my pictures to upload. I don't have to do anything special to them, which is really nice, because a lot of other websites make you have to, and I don't want 50 million different files on my computer.
Now, do they have any kind of storage limits or bandwidth limits or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of. I have 5 workshops with tons of traffic that I have yet to have an issue with, and that's it. I mean, I haven't had an issue. Oh, Rachel, I missed your face.
Are people able to copy the pictures off your website then, or are you blocking them?
I blocked them. I mean, anybody can screenshot, but you've got the HTML.
Yeah, screenshot's useless.
Yeah, I know.
What kind of charge do they have for Weebly in general?
I don't remember. I think I pay $35 per year. I don't recall. I mean, it's cheap. It's really inexpensive. No, I'm sure it's more than that. No, it's not per month.
I guess Ann can go out to Weebly and they'll probably have a price there. Then KB is saying they say you should find your brand and stick with it. Do you think that applies to your logo?
Yeah, I don't know so much if your logo. I always say it that you're selling you. Anybody can pick up a camera and learn how to use it. I mean, I did. Anyone can create a great product, but what sets you apart from the next professional photographer in town is you, the experience you give. Is that wrapped up in your colors? Maybe, maybe not. Well, like my favorite photographers, I couldn't even tell you their favorite colors, like their branding colors, because it doesn't matter to me. That they've branded them as them and not their colors. I just brand it over. I think it's very important you create a brand, but I think that people mistake the brand with the logo and the business cards and the colors that you have.
Okay. Somebody's asking about CDs. Do you offer CDs?
I do. My wedding packages have CDs. I was very adamant on not doing this because we all make more money on prints. But I found, and actually one of the clients that convinced me is in the chat room. That's the demand now. That's where the industry is going. It is what it is. And if I want to stay current and new and refreshed, I need to be able to offer what they want. So I just kind of balanced it out.
Because they want to take the picture, then put it up on Facebook.
And that's pretty much it. You know, I know so many that buy it and think that they're going to print, then they never print. It sits in their CD.
It's too much of a hassle.
You know, maybe we should have done the whole show just taking listener questions, because this is great. They're asking some great questions. So I know I said earlier that would end the official show. I may actually keep this in the official show. So I missed something. Somebody had asked, it just went off. Sorry. About you potentially making videos of your Photoshop I've lost it.
I have some on the blog that has some of my processing. I actually divulge my entire workflow in my Photoshop workshop.
Okay. And see, next time we have you back, we can maybe talk about your workshops.
Okay.
Newbie to the forum, yes, photography.
Do I require a print purchase before having the option to buy digital CD? That depends on my package. Weddings, no. I don't. I have found that brides want prints plus CD. But for my clients, my packages are created that they're able to get a little bit of both.
Okay. And somebody's asking, do you have a YouTube channel? Are you asking me or are you asking Rachel?
I don't have a YouTube channel.
And we do have two of them up there. I was just testing it. If they're asking me, we have two podcasts. We're just testing it. She's asking you. You do not have a YouTube channel. They're just on your site, right?
Yeah. Maybe I should get a YouTube channel. That's an idea. As if I need one more thing to put on my to-do list.
It actually, if you've already made the videos, it's not that hard to put up there.
Right. A lot of my videos are in my workshops.
Yeah. So, right. Once you put it up there.
Yeah, then there would be no need. And I like having the personalized one-on-one interaction with people. Do I use only natural light? No, yes and no. I prefer it. I do utilize my flash and off-camera flash at weddings. I'm actually going to branch out. You'll see in a couple weeks that I'm doing an off-camera flash project that's been on my list forever to do, and I think I'm going to get around to doing it. And you guys can watch my journey on that.
Now, what when you say off-camera flash, are you using like the SB800, SB900?
SB900 on a light stand. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I have the 800, I love the Nikon flashes. Mm-hmm. They're really good. And I've used them even in bright sunlight outside just to add a little bit of pop of color and a little bit of catch lights in the eyes. Okay.
Let's see.
What other questions you'll have?
Let me see. Is my price sheet available? Yes. It's on my website. Actions. Oh, people want to know my favorite actions. I don't really have any favorites per se. I kind of take a little bit from different actions. I've created my own. Morgan Curvin's action, I can't remember the name of it. Wowza, I think. I don't know if it's available on her website anymore. She was offering it free. That revolutionized my editing. I'm telling you, she's been a driving force in my photography. So
yeah, she's awesome.
She's good. So there's a good one. I do like Pure Photoshop Actions, Florabella, Oh So Posh. But I think that there's a point where you can overdo them. And I try to keep mine a lot more clear.
And Danielle, there is a gear section on our page. I was actually getting to it right at the end. I think you call it What's in Your Bag?
Yes.
So you can go there and see that, what's in her bag. I'll answer this one real quick. The SB800 and 900 is a hot shoe flash for the Nikon.
Yes.
But you can have I don't know what that thing's called, but you can take it off the hot shoe and have either a cable or remote or something like that and use it that way.
Actually, the onboard flash that comes on the D700 works as the commander to the slave. So I don't need anything else. Nikon does sell an attachment that you can put into the hot shoe, and you may need it for longer distances, but I haven't really found the need yet for my flash to be really far from me in order that's out of my range. My commander and slave option that's in the camera works fine with me, and not all cameras have that.
Yeah, my D2X and D2H do not have a pop-up flash, so I use a cable.
Yeah. Well, I know like the 300, is it 3S or 300S doesn't even have a flash. So you have to buy that attachment because it doesn't have the capabilities.
For whatever reason, Nikon's what they consider their pro line, which is like the D3S and a jpeg2RAW3X. And I imagine the same way on the Canon side. They don't include a pop-up flash. Maybe they feel like that's too non-pro. I don't know. To me, why not include a pop-up flash? You don't have to use it if you don't want to.
I always
Well, I
wonder the
never
same
use
thing.
mine.
I mean, it seems like if you're buying what they consider their pro lens, their pro camera, heck, throw that thing in. And if I don't want to use it, I don't have to.
Well, I think that I've heard some professionals that do utilize it and do sports photography say, what's the point? It's one more feature to have on there that I don't need. Like I only use it for off-camera flash. I never pop it up otherwise. I can't even tell you the last time I used on-camera flash.
Yeah,
like the onboard flash.
Yeah, it's way too harsh. It's way too there. So I think somebody was asking, how do you prevent people from copying the photos off your website?
Pictures. Oh, I Googled an HTML code, how to block, right-click save, and I just copied that into my HTML code on my template.
Yeah, I did that.
And the follow-up question to that was, are you giving full resolution or reduced resolution on the CDs?
Full.
Okay.
As of now.
Yeah. And are you even though you're shooting in RAW, I imagine you're giving them either JPEG or TIFF?
Oh, they only get edited. The non-edited do not leave my computer. I don't even show people the unedited version.
Smart choice.
I think you and Morgan have started that wonderful site on Facebook, F-Stop Frenzy, and I think somebody there had asked a question about. Maybe I can't remember where I read this, but the question was somebody wanted to see all the photos from a shoot. They wanted to see everything. And the debate was whether you show them everything. And I've always gone with the philosophy of no photo leaves me without me saying it's worth going out. So yeah, you want everything. I'll give you everything that I think is of good enough quality.
And I say that in my pricing that I will provide, because I will shoot a lot of photos, but then I may not like it when it gets in. So I really don't, in a regular session, I don't provide more than 20 photographs, 20 to 30 in a regular. My creative ones are more, like my vintage sessions are always more. And I've had people go, is there any more? And I'm just saying, no, there's not really nothing that I feel is my quality to provide. And I haven't had any problem with any clients not liking my opinion. I mean, they trust my opinion. They chose me for a reason.
Right.
And someone asked, what size do I put them on the disc? I leave them as is. I don't crop for printing because the printers are automatically going to crop it anyways. And like earlier on in the show, we said, well, what about if you crop? I don't crop. I crop as I see in my frame as I'm taking the pictures. So I always leave space around the edges in order to be able, because cropping is going to pull in like for canvases and different sizes.
How do you keep from blowing out the white wedding dress when shooting weddings?
Oh, it's a great question. And I don't know if this is the way to do it, but this is how I do it. I use spot meter mode, and I meter for skin tone, because that's the most important thing in the picture is skin tone. That's what I'm aiming for. I will, meter one stop underexposed. I know that sounds so weird, but really one stop's not all that big of a deal. Especially when you're trying to preserve detail. Is it the correct twig? I don't know, but it prevents me from blowing out a wedding dress, because they spend how many months looking for that wedding dress, how much money. They want a picture of that wedding dress. That was the point of them getting it. And if I blow that wedding dress, whether they notice or not, to me, that picture's going in the trash.
Yeah. Yeah, I never want to do weddings. It's too much stress for me.
It's a bit much, but I love them. When I'm in the middle of them, I love them.
Well, I imagine you can if you're good at it, you can make some decent money doing it.
It's a lot of work. It is good money, but it is a lot of work. And I know that there was an article posted today about people's perceptions of how much wedding photographers work. And I get this all the time from fellow law students. Oh, that's the perfect job. You work one day a week. I will work 3 weeks for one wedding, and that's in between the marketing, the editing, and everything that goes into that. And that's not on top of everything else that I have going on. Right.
One thing we didn't touch on, but I've listen to some of the top photographers in the business, Scott Bourne, some of those guys who are just some of the top guys out there, money wise, whether you think their images are top or not, they're some of the top money makers. And what they all will say is the thing that's more important than being the best photographer is being the best business person.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, you think anybody can pick up a camera and learn how to shoot. I mean, at the end of the day, you put enough effort to it, I think you can do it. Just say you're going to be Ansel Adams, no, but you could still do enough in order to provide a good product. So you need to be you need to be business. A lot of small business owners find out, and why the majority of small businesses fail, photography and non-photography, is that it's 10% of the industry and then it's 90% business. Marketing never quits, ever.
Yeah. Well, I think that saying assumes that you're a competent photographer. So it assumes you're a certain level of photographer, and then after that, it's more about the business, getting the next client and all the marketing yourself than it is the actual photos. You got to have the skill, but the thing that's going to make a successful, profitable photographer is going to be the business side of it. You think about the term starving artist. A lot of those artists are excellent artists. It's just they're starving because they're not good business people.
Right. Don't think about it this way. People think they've made it when they're a great photographer. Being a great photographer is just the baseline. If you're wanting to do it as a business, and you're wanting to be a successful business, you can be an artist and be fabulous and not have a business. But if you're going to have a business, being fantastic is just the baseline. You got to go up from there.
Yeah. Because somebody like Scott Bourne is charging 20 grand, 25 grand a wedding.
Oh man, I'm not charging enough.
Yeah. Now, obviously, his clientele are not somebody like me.
Right. I didn't mean anything by that, but no, it's true. I mean, and that was another thing. Like, I love Jasmine Starr, and a lot of the listeners know her. She's big in California, and I've thought before, not that she's not fabulous, and she is fabulous. I love her business mindset, where a lot of I love her work. But I'm just thinking, man, if I was in California surrounded by rich people, I'd be rolling in the dough too. But she wouldn't be there, and she wouldn't be competing with the big dogs and be the big dog if she didn't have the business smarts.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, if your area doesn't support that, you're going to have to do something different. But Jasmine's the one I'm thinking of. She is fairly new to photography, isn't she? She's actually also an
ex-law student. So there's a couple of big photographers that were law students, and I think law school kind of drives you to it. She's relatively new. Another one, a couple that I can think of. All of a sudden they started booming, and a lot of it was they had the talent there, but once they stepped up their business and they hustled and marketed, they've really gotten there, and that's where I want to be.
Yeah. Now the challenge, I would think, for a lot of people is that making that change. Let's say, like for somebody like me who has a day job, at some point you're going to have to stop the day job and go full-time photography. That's a huge leap. Or if you are a stay-at-home parent, mother or father, a stay-at-home parent, making that switch from a part-time, maybe once, twice a weekend photographer to full-time photographer has got to be a huge challenge.
I don't know if I'll ever make that jump.
Yeah.
I don't know if my husband will let me have a law degree and not use it at this point.
That's true.
No, I think it's fantastic. If you're able to do it full time and it's what you love, go for it. It's fantastic. It's a great industry to be in. It's fun to have your own business. It's overwhelming, but I promise you guys listening, it's fun.
Yeah, but on the other side of that, you don't have to go full time.
No.
I mean, you could have a successful business doing this, within your time schedule.
I haven't been full time. I started the business when my husband was deployed, and I had 2 kids and was in law school, and I was also working internships, and it was a lot of late hours, ask my friends, but so far it's been worth it. I'm not where I want to be, but if you want to make it happen, you can do it. It's just balance. And someone asked, what's the best marketing tool I found to piggyback on balance? Utilize social media. It's there. People are connected. People are there. Let it do the work for you for free.
And Tim knows I'm terrible at pronouncing name, but somebody just said they're quitting their full-time job to become a full-time photographer.
Well, that's good. I'm a little jealous.
Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love to hear it, and when people can make a go of it and really are successful. That's good.
Her husband was also deployed. Now, what part of the country are you from? I'm not going. Lisvet.
Mm-hmm. She's one of my often listeners, readers. You know, it's funny. She said her husband's deployed. I actually found that my schedule, better not let my husband hear it, my schedule was easier when he wasn't home to do this. Just because in the evenings, once the kids went to bed, that was it. That was my business time. Well, when he came home, I adjusted my office hours. So now I have to get it done in the day. Yeah. And so I can spend the evenings with him.
Right.
Well, how many photo shoots do you do a month then?
I have forced myself. I was doing so many and I was run ragged. I do not do more than 3 weekends, sometimes 4.
3 a weekend?
Yeah, I only shoot on the weekends.
Wait. Not 3 a month, but 3 in each weekend?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, I utilize the morning and afternoon hours.
So do you actually sleep?
I don't think so. What's sleep?
Wow. How do you? So 3 a weekend for every weekend of the month?
For the most part, I took October kind of slowly because he was off for leave from being home. But for the most part, yeah, November's pretty stocked. But that's just because Christmas is coming up.
So now, do you edit them during the week, or that's part of your weekend detail as well?
I do it during the week.
Okay.
I edit during the week, often when I'm updating, because I do workshops. So I'm always constant workflow. Engaged with that because that's one-on-one. I respond individually to every single person in the workshop. It's not solely self-guided. So I have that between the regular emails I get a day, and I edit.
So
I multitask.
So I haven't seen this out in chat, but this will be my question. So 3 a weekend, how that you have are all these repeats or brand new customers? I mean, how are you getting? What is your method for getting that kind of volume?
Social media referrals, and I even said it in the chat before the show started, and they I forgot what I was saying. Oh, word of mouth, photographers. Get to know other photographers in your area.
So you're not advertising then? It's just that you're not doing any paid advertising, in other words.
I haven't paid a dime for marketing for social media. For any marketing.
For marketing.
That being said, well, I guess I should take that back. I do have, I do promo events. I have flyers and business cards.
Okay. But now your social media, Facebook is going to be obviously worldwide. Now you're doing mainly Texas, I assume, but you also said you went to Virginia. Where do you really travel to? And then how do you find the time to travel to places?
Well, I was living in Virginia for the last 2 years while I was in law school. So I was up there and we have family there. I don't travel all that much except for weddings. Weddings are the only things that I travel for, and I only will do one wedding a weekend. So I just kind of try to fit it into my schedule. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, but I think I was thinking the same thing, Tim. So Facebook is worldwide. How do you localize that and get local clients?
Right. It's amazing who knows who, and especially being in the military community. Majority of my Facebook is aimed towards newer photographers because I like to help. I like to teach. I want to help others because not other than Morgan, nobody helped me. And so that actually has come full circle. You would think it was counterintuitive by marketing to photographers. By marketing to photographers, I'm getting clients. I'm getting clients as the photographers plus their referrals. I'll know someone in Alaska will refer someone here where I live. And it just, because they saw me and they referred me and they knew where I was.
Yeah, they know you and they respect you and they understand what your work is, so they can trust you to recommend you to somebody they know because they can't make it here.
Yeah, and I reciprocate. Someone said, do you participate in OpLove? OpLove is Operation Love Reunited. It's a military charity that gives back to the military community, that they have free sessions for the deployed, before you deploy, during your deployment, and after. And I do participate. I do a lot of giving back, but Operation Love Reunited is one of the big ones that I do. I don't get a lot of traffic from it. A lot of photographers think if they get engaged in these giving back, they think they're going to get a lot of referrals. I have not gotten any clients because of that. I've had clients utilize it. And so I don't look at my giving back, as I call it, my charity stuff, my giving back. I don't utilize that as a marketing tool. I use it as a benefit and service to my clients.
Okay.
How do you track where you get your clients from?
I ask them.
Okay. Direct approach always works.
Yeah, I just ask them and I put it in their client profile, and often it just goes in circles. You know, I have one friend in Virginia that has referred, I don't know, 10 different people to me, and it just goes in a circle, and they refer out, and it's just like a big tree, and I love it.
How do you find your locations? Like those locations with your, you know, what do you call it? Retro. You didn't call it retro. You call it.
I just drive. I put the kids in the car, especially when my husband wasn't home. I would just drive and find. I'm still location hunting. I absolutely love it since we moved. I go, but there's no point in going during the time of day that you're not going to shoot. So I go out early morning or late afternoon in the golden and blue hours, and I look and I get out and walk around. Or it's just trial and error. I have a client that says they want this location. Okay, well, let's do it. And then it's my job to make it work.
Yeah, and that's key, is going out in the light that you're wanting to shoot in. You know, going out in the middle of the day may show you something different than what you would see if you went out, you know, early morning, late afternoon. You
know how simplistic that sounds, but really, the light bulb went off for me in my photography was with the lighting. And I even posted on Facebook, and I was like, oh, lighting, who knew? And all my friends laughed, but really, it makes or breaks it. I mean, I could have the most fabulous model and everything, but if my lighting's awful, it's not even worth it. And I even read that in a Scott Kelby book. He said it's not worth shooting if it's not during certain times of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Where do I store my client profile? You can use Studio Cloud or an Excel spreadsheet.
Excel, yeah. See, my day job is an accountant, so I love Excel.
Well, I know who I'm calling come April then.
You know, the tax group does report to me, but I hate taxes.
Oh, yeah, I hear you. How do you pick locations on the style of photo shoot for clients? It's art. It's all whatever I envision. Like the vintage session, her husband was actually a Marine. And so I had this whole idea of him coming home from war, and that was, well, and my husband was deployed, so I was a little wishful thinking at the time, but it was this whole story of him coming home from war and them reconnecting and being in love. And so if he was vintage, how would he come home from war? Train tracks. So I went and found train tracks. And then it was kind of this, oh, I want them like they're coming home together from the train tracks. And there's pictures, he has his duffel bag like he just got home, and there's him walking up and her waiting on the platform. And so I just kind of envisioned in my head the story that I want to tell and pick my locations from there. But I have to make sure the light is good, because if it's not good, then what's the point?
Right.
Right.
All right. Well, you know, we've kept you a half hour over.
No, it's okay. I love it.
Time goes by fast.
It does.
For sure.
And so I thank everybody. We still have 78 people out there. I thank all you guys for sticking around this long.
Thank you.
And continuing.
Thank you, everyone.
And this has been such a good after the show that I'm going to actually make it in the show. So this will, you know, now we'll be officially ending the show.
Again.
Yes, again.
But if you guys have any questions, just email me, because I may have misspoke here too. So you may even see me posting later, because I'll remember something that I forgot to say or said incorrectly. If anything was confusing, because I do talk fast, I can clarify. No problem.
And Rachel, we'll work with you on set up a date for some time in the future to come back and talk about some other topics. Because, you know, you are such a help to other photographers, and that's really why we started this podcast. You know, we're doing this just for fun and for, you know, several things. One is the opportunity to talk to great photographers like yourself. Mm-hmm. And two is to help other people. And that's also the thought with the jpeg2RAW Hangout edition over at Google Plus, is where we could all get a group of people and just talk. That's been a little slow getting off the ground, because I don't think everybody's over there yet.
You know, and this kind of undermines my workshops, but for those that are listening, if you're still trying to learn your style and learn the technique, don't think you need to spend all this money on workshops and doing this and doing that. I learned the majority of my stuff from online forums. I learn new stuff every day through helping others by hearing feedback. So just get connected. There's all sorts of Facebook groups out there, and so just get connected and get to know other people.
All right. Thank you again out there in chat. I'm going to end the live stream here.
Okay.
Like Rachel.
Thank you, everyone. Good
So
night.
hang on, Rachel and Tim. But I'm going to end the live stream here. Thank you guys for coming out, and we'll come back to some of our other shows. Come back next week where we'll have Ali on and talk about Google Plus and HDR. We're going to talk about HDR next week. So if you're ever interested in HDR, come in next week.
Fantastic.
All right. Good night,
Thank you,
chat.
everybody.
Good night.
All right. How do I hang up this guy? I just do this.